What an act of kindness from a stranger you won't forget. I was solo camping for 5 nights, for hours away from home, and it rained constantly, every damn day. By the 4th morning of constant wetness, I decided to treat myself to a warm lunch. I went to a small family restaurant and ordered the special of the day. It was a soup and sandwich, nothing fancy. An older gentleman near my table grinned and said he ordered the same thing. Great minds. We smiled, and he waved his sandwich at me later, saying, "Yum, right?" As he left, he smiled again and announced he was having a great day. I smiled after he left, thinking I was happy someone was enjoying their day. I asked for my bill, and the waitress said, "No, honey, your bill was taken care of." I burst into tears and was embarrassed by my emotions. Hell, I am tearing up as I type. Thing is, that small exchange and gesture changed my whole day. Mindset trip. There is good in each day. Some is hard to see, but it is there. I will never forget him. Ever.
It's nice to hear about those small moments that can shift your whole day. I had something similar happen once. I was feeling down and went to a cafe alone. A stranger paid for my coffee without saying a word. It caught me off guard. I ended up smiling the whole day. Those little acts of kindness really show there's good around us, even when we're not in the best place. It's something I'll always remember.
Many years ago, I was at a club. I felt a little overwhelmed and went to the bathroom for some comparative quiet. While I was in there, a gal came over and asked me if I was okay. I was, and I reassured her that I was just overloaded and needed to chill for a bit before going into the crowd again. She patted my arm in an understanding way and went back out. Why it sticks with me is that no one in my life at that time, and damned few, since would care or think to ask how I'm doing when I'm having a hard time. I'm just one of those people that others don't generally notice. Wherever she is, I hope she's happy and well.
That's a nice moment to remember. It's interesting how a small gesture can stick with you. Sometimes, all it takes is one person to show a little care, and it makes a difference. It's easy to feel invisible in a crowd, and people often overlook the quiet ones. That gal probably didn't realize how impactful her kindness was. It's a reminder that everyone deserves to be seen, even if they're not the loudest in the room.
My husband, now ex, and I were having a moving sale because our house had been foreclosed on. I was pregnant at the time. I was selling our guest room furniture for like $50 or something like that, and my neighbor came over and bought it and gave me $500 cash. I tried to stop her, and she said, "No, this is fair."
That's a pretty wild story. Moving sales are always so chaotic. It's good to hear that your neighbor stepped up like that. It's surprising how people can be generous in tough situations. Makes you realize that there are still nice folks around, even when things aren't going well. Honestly, that kind of support can mean a lot. It's a decent reminder that people can come through when you need it.
A new friend of mine gave me a little plant for New Year's so we can grow together, she said. Today she gave me a jar of Vegemite for Australia Day. Just little gifts, but such priceless gestures when you meet someone. Very hard to trust people these days, but she is very genuine and good-hearted.
It's nice when you meet someone who just gets it. Little acts like that can mean a lot. A plant and Vegemite might seem simple, but they show thoughtfulness. It's cool to have a friend who wants to grow with you, literally and figuratively. Trust can be tough sometimes, but finding genuine people makes it easier. Hope more moments like this come your way.
When I was in high school in a first period study hall in the cafeteria, I passed out after standing for the pledge. I was a loner. I didn't sit with anyone and tucked myself away in a corner. Well, a kid I didn't know saw me fall and ran to get the SRO. Office was right there, who then got the nurse. That kid getting the nurse, who then called an ambulance, is the reason I found out I have POTS.
That sounds like a pretty intense moment. It's strange how sometimes those unexpected situations bring help from people we least expect. It must have been tough dealing with that as a loner. At least you got clarity on what was happening with your health. It's good that someone noticed and stepped in. Sometimes, we just need that one person to make a difference.
I was at a festival and very drunk, wandered away from my group, and got very lost. No phone signal, started freaking out as it was after dark, so I had no idea where I was. A couple found me crying by one of the tents, used Wi-Fi hotspot from their phones to call my brother to come find me by describing where we were, and gave me a hug until he came to get me. I wish I got their names. What a nice couple.
That sounds like a pretty intense night. Getting lost at a festival can be really unsettling, especially when you're not sober. It's good to hear that a kind couple helped you out, though. It's easy to forget how nice strangers can be in tough situations. At least you made it back to your group safe. That experience probably makes you appreciate those little acts of kindness more.
Was driving in the snow and hit a patch of black ice when going around the corner. Bam, right into the snowbank. The car was totally fine, but I couldn't pull out. Guy in a big black truck pulls up behind me, grabs the winch attached to his truck and says, "Here, hook this up." 5 minutes later, I'm out and back on the road. He barely smiled and obviously wasn't big on words. I said, "Thank you so much," and offered him money. He declined and said, "Pay it forward," then left.
That's a solid story. Just shows how random acts of kindness happen sometimes. That guy in the truck didn't need to help, but he did anyway. It's like he knew you just needed a little push. The whole "pay it forward" thing is a nice way to keep good vibes going. You never know when you might be the one helping someone out next. It's just good to see people looking out for each other.
I was having lunch with my asshole of a boyfriend at the time, and our child, who was a baby. We were 19 years old and got in an argument, and he just got up and left and I started crying. Some lady saw the whole thing and paid our lunch bill. I thanked over and over again and left bawling my eyes out.
It's tough when you have those moments that just get to you. You're young, dealing with a lot, and then something like that happens. It's nice that a stranger stepped in and showed some kindness, though. Shows that even when things are rough, there are people out there willing to help. That lunch turned into an unexpected lesson in humanity. Just goes to show that not everyone is as cold as they seem.
I had a binge drinking problem during university and deep in depression/other mental health struggles. One night, I passed out in a bathroom stall of a club. After a while, 2 girls found me and managed to get me somewhat conscious. They somehow managed to drag me all the way back to my apartment and made sure I got home safe. Woke up the next morning, safe in bed, and it actually took me a few days to at least partially remember what had happened. I had never seen them before and only saw one of them again a few semesters later when I was repeating a class. Those girls had no responsibility towards me and still went out of their way to make sure I was okay. I realize now how much danger I repeatedly put myself in back then. I was so lucky it was them who found me and entered my apartment with me in that state. It could have easily been someone else with me that night. I don't really drink anymore.
That's a tough memory. It's wild thinking about how strangers can sometimes look out for us when we're in rough spots. It shows there's still kindness in the world, even in dark times. You were fortunate those girls were there. It sounds like a turning point for you, realizing the risks and changing your habits. It's good you found a way to move forward.
Was flying first time, only time, with newish baby to visit family. The kiddo was fine until we were boarding. Baby started crazy crying, so wife took baby to bathroom to try to calm baby down, and it wasn't working. Had to come back to seat since it was takeoff time, baby still crying her lungs out. Now my wife is crying too. I'm on the outside, wife and baby are in the middle, and another young woman is at the window. She offered help seeing my wife in distress. She took baby and calmed down in less than a minute, and she held baby for the entire flight. That woman was an angel and saved us. He'll forever remember her. Beautiful face, golden hair, graceful, and kind.
It's wild how strangers can step up in tough moments. I remember a time at an airport when I saw a couple struggling with a baby, just like in your story. Someone stepped in to help, and you could see the relief on their faces. It kind of makes you believe that there's still a lot of good out there. Little acts of kindness can really change the vibe.
I was driving to work, and one of my tires popped. It was raining heavily. As I pull over from the left lane to the shoulder on the right, before I could even exit the car, a minivan pulls up in front of me. Guy comes out and said, "Oh, it looks like you may need some assistance with that tire." He opens the trunk to a trunk full of power tools, and NASCAR pit stops my spare tire in the back. I offered the guy money, but he said no chance. It's his pleasure to help people in need. I even made it to work on time. Never will forget that guy. Gave me some faith in humanity.
That's one of those moments that sticks with you. You're having a rough day, then someone just shows up out of nowhere to help. It's cool how people can still be kind, even when things seem tough. I mean, he had all the tools ready like a mini pit crew. Just goes to show that sometimes, there's a bright side in a messy situation. Glad you made it to work on time, too.
When you think about it, it's amazing how one small act of kindness can change the trajectory of a person's life. It's a poignant lesson that's resonated with me this morning. Thanks for sharing your story. You'll never know how it resonates with the anonymous people reading it. I'm happy you're here to post it. Be well.
It's true, you never really know how your actions affect others. I remember when a buddy helped me out during a tough patch. Just a small gesture, but it changed my outlook. We often underestimate the power of kindness. It's nice to see people spreading good vibes like that. Those moments stay with you. Glad this message got shared. It's a reminder for all of us.
I was like those girls even though I am a guy. At our local hippie-type bar, pretty much everyone knew everyone. I carried dozens of girls to my truck and took them home, tucked them in, got a glass of water, and left a note on the nightstand. We all lived within a few miles of the bar, so it was no big deal. I had two habitual offenders, LOL, Jacqueline and Sarah. My best friend owned the bar, and I maintained the website, so I was down there quite often and was basically staff, LOL. Yeah, for no bar tab.
That's an interesting story. Sounds like a unique vibe at that bar. It's cool you knew everyone and helped those girls get home safely. Having a good relationship with the owner must have made it easier to get to know the crowd. Free drinks and fun times in a close-knit community have their perks. Those habitual friends must have kept things entertaining.
Please consider subscribing if you enjoyed. Love.